What we're seeing right now, clear as day, is fascism.
Islam is definitely taking over and Sharia law is coming because... Welcome back to the Northstar Politics show. Now, in the aftermath of Trump bullying leaders across the world, our state of affairs feels more fragile than ever. Trump's ICE agents are publicly executing Americans in broad daylight, the people of Gaza still have no meaningful access to any aid, and Europe seems like it hasn't learned its lesson by doing a deal with another fascist, Narendra Modi. Meanwhile, the domestic affairs in the UK continue to be embarrassing. Put it this way, the only Labour politician with any motion at all, Andy Burnham, was blocked by Keir Starmer to become an MP. Reform are not even in power yet and are going back on promises by accepting the very conservative politicians they criticise. So how do we stop being so fragile? Well, Noah's got to let me land. Bring back conscription. Yes, hear me pressure him on this today. Let's get into it.
One time for the one time, two time for the two time. Welcome home, stars them.
Yes, sir.
We're already giggling. We're happy to be here.
Come
You're
on, man.
back tapped in with Northstar Politics, pushing political imagination. You're, of course, joined by myself, Noah East, the Mile and Malcolm X. We didn't land on Bethnal Green.
Bethnal Green
landed on us. The little boy from Boat E3, Slimitar Herbatov, live in the flesh, Gallister Campbell, but you knew that.
Is it? They know that.
They should have known that.
Gallister.
Come on, second week here, they know it now.
Fairs.
And I'm, of course, joined by Sean Remies on each and every platform.
Come on now.
The Enfield Eric Williams.
Yes, sir.
Biblical Jesus.
Some may say.
Rory slew them down. DreamWorks Moses.
Let my people go. Wagwan alaikum wagwan to the stars them at home. Make sure you're liking, commenting, subscribing already.
Bro, we're in a mood today. I can't lie. I'm happy to be here.
I know, I'm just feeling in a giggly mood.
I think it's because we've got this new setup. It's just been high energy from when we got here. Because our old setup, we used to have to take time to set up. We got here, everything was set up, ready to go. Boom.
Nah, I know. I'm sorry, stars them. I forgot our paraphernalia at home, the mugs. Bro, that's my fault.
I reminded him last night, yeah. And you know what it is? We're quite self-critical. So this morning, I see Sean message me. He's like, oh my God, bro, I'm so sorry. I would have trained, I forgot. I said, bro, it's okay. Then it's not okay. It's not okay. High standards at Northstar Productions.
Yes.
Yeah, he had some good coffee here. Tarek, our producer, prepared us some good coffee.
You know what? And he's actually gonna create a little barista shop one day soon. Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah.
But that's undercover. That's undercover.
How you doing, bro?
I'm good because I had a great weekend.
Stars them. I tried invite you guys, but we actually had a little surprise birthday for one Sean Remies.
Come on, man.
So Sean Remies turned
officially Unk status. I'm 25 now. Can you imagine?
What does someone say? Frontal lobe Mubarak.
Frontal lobe Mubarak.
So we had a little surprise birthday for Sean on Saturday night. He was the whole of last week. You wouldn't know, but off camera he's messaging me.
He's gonna drag it.
Because normally Sean's the one who will organise his boys for like a birthday each year. But I told all of his homeboys and that just say you're busy when he shouts you.
Bro, I'll tell you how dark it was, yeah. So obviously come back from Canada in the new year and think, you know what, let's get people around. Because again, you have that one person in the friend group that brings people together. I just, I volunteer myself as tribute. I'd do that, yeah. So I put in the group chat, yeah, guys, who's around? Bro, 15 man in the group chat just airing my thing. I thought, damn, I guess cool. Because when Northstar blows, yeah, you're all going to be forgotten.
And the whole week Sean's messaging me talking about the bar was everyone wants to have a village but no one wants to be a villager. And I was creasing. I'm just knowing that Saturday when he got back to his yard we were all there, mum was there, everything was there.
And it was really special. It was really special.
Lovely vibes.
Did you enjoy yourself?
Yeah, it was good vibes, man. It was very good vibes. I enjoy it always when I get to get up to Enfield.
Come on, we had the doubles, Pelori, roti. If you know anything about West Indian food, you know what that is.
Nah, it was real, man.
Yeah, man. What about you, though? How's your week been?
I've been good, man. Obviously, good football. We don't like football talk on the pod, yeah, but for people that know, I'm a Man United fan, so life's been good recently.
Yeah, it was a good match,
good.
To be fair.
Yeah, come on now. But now I'm all right, man. Been finishing up some memoirs of James Baldwin.
Okay.
These sorts of things, so I can't really complain.
Nah, bro, you're always shouting out your Substack all the time, yeah. And it's become a bit of a pet peeve, so to speak. But my real pet peeve now is the fact that not been new content in a while, fam. What's going on?
But you know what it is? You can't force it. Can't rush greatness, as a great scholar, Central C, once said. But now there'll be new stuff dropping soon. Some new stuff for the Northstar Substack as well. But if you're struggling for stuff to read, head back to the annals and go check the archives.
Yeah. I'm gonna start actually creating some more content again. Ramadan's coming up. I'm getting bare requests to talk about this piece of philosophy, that piece of philosophy. So hopefully you should be seeing a lot more from the Northstar boys soon, alongside the main podcast.
Before we get into the state of play, we got to do. We got to ask for a few things just from those stars. Them one. If you can, guys, if you've got Spotify, Apple Music, Go review us.
Yeah, man.
We want to see it, and obviously, please, like I feel like the best Uber driver, 5-star, please, 5-star, please. Also, if you're here on the YouTube, make sure you like it, drop a little comment just to let you know you're there. Someone in the comments last week literally put in the comment, "I've got nothing to say, but I know a comment helps the algorithm."
Real.
Can I say I love you? I love you, innit?
Like, you know what? The stars, them, the second sort of alter egos, the villagers, them.
The villagers.
Yeah,
real. And of course, we've got to say thank you to everyone that has donated on our website to support us. It actually helps so much, more than you even understand. But if you haven't just yet, and you think that Northstar Politics is something you want to support, or you think can do great things in the world, or you've derived any utility from it before, head to northstarpolitics.com/support, and you'll see an option there to support the boys. Without further ado, should we get into the state of play?
Let's do it, bro.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to the State of Play. Now, if you're new here, this is basically where we just give a rundown of all the hottest topics this week. And we're starting with an international focus. So I first want to start with an update on Gaza. So Israel has recently confirmed the return of all hostages, both living and deceased, completing the first phase of the US-brokered ceasefire agreement with Hamas. Now, Hamas says it has fulfilled its obligations under Phase 1 and has called on mediators, particularly the United States, to ensure Israel implements its remaining commitments, which is, things around humanitarian aid, flowing into Gaza and reconstruction. Now, the next expected step is the reopening of the Rafah crossing between Gaza and Egypt, which has remained largely closed since May 2024, despite aid supplies waiting in Egypt. And Israel has not fully reopened the crossing and has linked any limited reopening to additional conditions, which has contributed to the countless delays in moving to the next phase of the agreement. Now, the reason why there's still a hold-up is because this second phase of the ceasefire is intended to include expanded humanitarian access and the deployment of an international security force, Israel to, withdraw troops, and then also Hamas to, and this is the key, to disarm. And then, only then, will Gaza's reconstruction commence. And obviously, the crony Netanyahu has said that prioritizing the disarming of Hamas and demilitarizing Gaza is basically the only way that this reconstruction will actually continue. And this all comes under the kind of umbrella, which we spoke about last week, of Trump's kind of, board of global peace to usher in this new phase of Gaza. And, just before we kind of get into the conversation around, this inhumane delay in any real reconstruction, I just want to read out some stats for the viewers, just to kind of center the injustice of this all. So 61,000 tons of rubble exist in Gaza. It's an estimated 10,000 bodies are trapped under the rubble, and 2,500, nearly 2,600 wounded children have no surviving family. 17,000 children have lost both parents, and 39,000 children have lost at least one parent. And those stats come from Al Jazeera. Noah, we've spoken so much in the past, and we've committed to doing these updates on Gaza. And the mainstream, they don't report on it anymore because they think, things are solved. There's no, war anymore, so to speak. But still, it feels like there's no real justice actually coming for Palestinians.
Yeah, I think there's an important thing to keep reminding people of how violent silence is.
Yeah. Because
for those of us who were centering Gaza in our thoughts, even prior to October 7th, we were always concerned around the apathy from a large section of the populace who said, what can Britain do? It's no point us getting involved, or, you're boycotting certain companies is going to have no effect. Well, no, in fact, the reason why these things have been allowed to be perpetuated is because the sort of anger and outrage of those that were active on the issue of Gaza has been quelled and subdued and basically fought against by the passivity of others. And it's basically cleared the space, both literally, unfortunately, in Gaza, but also ideologically, for this new world order to come into play, where we're seeing the Board of Peace, the Trumpian Board of Peace, which set out their prescribed charter this week, which has no mention of human rights, start to try and gain leverage within the international sphere. I think this should be a reminder for those of us listening to really try and animate the consciences of those people who are just apathetic.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think even the kind of sinister and insidious element of this all is the fact that this Board of Peace plan for Gaza is really just a scramble for like for profit, and just a scramble for actually just carving up and remodeling Gaza in the eyes of the American capitalist over actual indigenous Palestinians.
And that's what I mean when I say it's a fight for ideological frameworks, because, like I said, the Border Peace Charter does not mention human rights once.
Yeah.
The only European members are Bulgaria and Hungary. Hungary is obviously run by the far right-wing Viktor Orban. When France refused membership to the Border Peace, Trump threatened to increase its tariffs. You know, that might is right sort of thing.
Yeah.
If it's meant to be an ideological coalition, then why are we essentially harnessing economic leverage to force people into it?
And something that we have always spoke about in private, and I think we definitely have to articulate very carefully, is the lasting image that stays with both of us of Yahya Sinwar, and how, you know, you see the modern might of the drone zoom in with you know, a kind of rubble all around him, and he's there armless, and as a last act of defiance he just picks up a stick and throws it at the drone before presumably being assassinated. There's something really, I guess, quite tragic about the fact that any means of self-determination, any means of autonomy or being able to kind of fight for oneself for the Palestinians has just been ripped away from them. So much so that now they're not even, like, there's no aid that has gone into Gaza, right? And there's no aid that's gone into Gaza because Netanyahu and his cronies won't let it happen unless there's absolutely a disarming. And that disarming process is, you know, it makes one question, what way is there any left for the Palestinians to actually resist what's happening to them?
No, exactly. I think for those of us around the world, there's maybe two forms of argument that you can put forward to people to try and motivate care about issues of marginalized people around the world. So one of them is obviously just it is fundamentally correct and you don't want to be part of this horrendous sort of behavior. So that's the argument for, like, why are we allowing our government to send spy planes from RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus over to Israel and then into Gaza to then help the IDF war machine?
And also no accountability for British soldiers who've died in Gaza and letting the IDF get away with it.
Or British citizens that fought in the IDF.
Yeah.
So that's one, is that we shouldn't be consenting to this as a British state or as British citizens that pay our taxes towards these things. The other one is the slippery slope, or the first it's them, then it's you. So we're seeing this decay in what we used to think of as quite a thick international order or moral order, in the sense of things that are very clearly violations of human rights are being permitted by Western states. And people say, oh, well, it's not happening to me, therefore they feel apathetic about it. But like I said before, what this clears the ground for is, you know, we're now going to maybe later in the back roads talk about the expansion of facial surveillance throughout the UK. What does this open up for people in the UK to be treated like? And will you have a leg to stand on if you were those passive, apathetic UK residents who didn't stand up for the Palestinians when that same moral code is flipped on you?
And I think, like, part of the purpose of this podcast, even why we actually started this whole kind of politics journey, Northstar, 2 years ago, is because we really think it's so important to animate people's consciousness. And there are so many forces all around you trying to actually stop you from talking about this, trying to basically diminish your appetite to speak on these matters. And you really need to resist in whatever way possible. Even so much so, that's why I actually really admire the Palestine Action protesters who did the hunger strike, because all of those means were taken away to the point where they said, fine, I'll just starve myself.
I'm also going to say something, and this will lead into our next topic around ICE agents in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
But I think there's also a reminder to people there that you need to keep on fighting for the narrative, to take control of the narrative. And obviously that's pertinent to the ICE agent stuff because of how the Trump administration is talking about it, what we can clearly see on video. But also in the immediate aftermath of the October 7th attacks with the invasion by Hamas into Israeli territory, there was a clear and defined narrative by legacy media and by, let's say, sort of the centrist media within the UK and around the world.
Immediately as well.
Yeah. And it's important that you actually, if you disagree and have fundamental evidence for disagreeing, that you don't give up that ground.
Yeah.
That you keep on fighting for that narrative. Don't allow them to set the groundwork, because that's what, you know, perpetuates this kind of horror.
And that's how they manufacture consent for these things. So yeah, keep your eyes on Gaza, and we'll also do our part in bringing it to you. So we'll move on to actually trying to cover what's actually going on in Minneapolis specifically. So widespread protests are taking place across Minneapolis as now 2 American citizens have been publicly executed by ICE agents in broad daylight. So President Donald Trump has said his administration is reviewing everything following the fatal shooting of a 37-year-old intensive care nurse, Alex Pretty, by federal immigration agents in Minneapolis. The administration has defended the agent involved, with Homeland Security officials saying Pretty was shot in self-defense after allegedly brandishing a gun, an account which is disputed by local authorities, eyewitnesses, the victim's family, and also a lot of journalist media. Ross Atkins on the BBC actually did a great breakdown if anyone's interested, in basically exposing how that's pretty much a lie. Local police and video analysis have now actually come out to state that Pretty was a lawful gun owner with a permit, but the available footage actually just shows a phone in his hand, not a weapon at the time of shooting. And this incident has intensified tensions between the Minnesota state authorities and federal agencies, with Minneapolis saying that the federal agents actually blocked state officers from accessing the scene despite a search warrant. And just to kind of step back and give you the context, this is the second fatal shooting of a US citizen by federal agents in Minneapolis in recent weeks, following the death of Renee Good earlier this month during an immigration-related operation, and she was a mother of 3 kids. Look, protests have spread across Minneapolis and other US cities as Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, who is a Democrat, warned the country that the country is at an inflection point over federal enforcement tactics and accountability. So, a lot of the conversation around this is touching a key worry, a real deep worry that America is descending into something that people are calling fascism. Noah, give us some thoughts. Do you think America's actually fallen into fascism?
Yeah, so we spoke in pre-production. It's like, I think fascism, I mean, as you know, as we spoke about last week, I get quite specific in terms.
Yeah, we both get kind of annoyed.
We get very specific in terms. Yeah. That's thrown around. If someone's racist, they're fascist. If this, they're fascist. I don't think that's helpful, but I am quite happy now to define this, what we're seeing in Trump's America, as quite literally fascism. So, and you know where I'm going to go first. You know what I love to take it to? What do I think is the most important subject in school?
Latin and classics.
Latin. So fascism literally comes from the word fasces in the Latin, which was described as a bundle of sticks. You need to think about your fascia in your muscles. Exactly, your fascia in your muscles like a bundle of sinews. So the fasces described a bundle of sticks, which became a symbol of imperial Rome, and a leading class of soldiers in imperial Rome that would actually protect like the imperial class. So when we see the development of fascism in Italy with Benito Mussolini and then spreading throughout Germany, what we're describing here is a small coalesced imperial elite violent force that has authoritarian power designed to embolden a national sort of rejuvenation, a national identity. And that is exactly what we're now beginning to see with ICE. ICE are not federal agents in the sense of a federal police officer, an FBI bureaucrat, or these sorts of things. They are literally prescribed by the president to carry out the will of the president in a way that is designed to foment nationalist sentiment. So I think what we're seeing right now, clear as day, is fascism. Yeah. And, maybe I'm too late to the party and Donald Trump's been a fascist for ages, but I'm just more comfortable with it saying it now quite categorically is what we're seeing. It's also worth noting that this is starting to create a divide within what would be considered Donald Trump's classic heartland of support. So, for example, the NRA, which is the National Rifle Association, has come out and criticized the Trump administration for villainizing the victim in this scenario because he was carrying a weapon.
And just to give some context, the NRA is one of the largest lobbying organizations in the US. It has such a hold on US politics.
The National Rifle Association, which advocates and supports like the use of or the
right to bear arms,
the right to bear arms, and the Second Amendment, and also gave its biggest ever donation of $30 million to the Trump campaign.
It's mad, yeah.
So I think what we're starting to see here is.
Because also even the NRA, they've been the big force that has stopped any meaningful gun reform after all the school shootings. So the fact that they're even coming out to kind of go against this just shows you how far this Trump administration is actually going.
No, precisely. And I think to tie two things together, like two ideologies from around the same time and one person who suffered from the other, by which I mean Hannah Arendt and fascism, what we're seeing here is, one, the fascist aspects to the Trump administration, cool. We've sort of outlined that in terms. But also the inability of the Trump administration to obtain the power that it wants over the civic populace. And what Hannah Arendt would say is that when we look at violence as opposed to power, violence is the most flagrant manifestation of unpower. When you're not able to organize people in concert and organize people en masse, but you want to sort of wrest that free will from them, wrestle that consent from them, you then move towards violence. And that's what we're seeing here.
Yeah. And I think just even to kind of stay on that line of thinking, the use of ICE, right, is a fear tactic across America. In particular, I would even go out on a limb and say that there are a lot of similarities between ICE and the Gestapo. which is in Nazi Germany, the secret police that was commanded by Hitler. Because it's not about even necessarily the sort of superficial ideology or scale, but it's about the structure and actually method, right? Because in both cases, what we're thinking about when we think about ICE and historical cases of fascist police is that authority is flowing directly from the executive, which is why states and federal and the local states have a real difficulty in overruling them, because their allegiance, these ICE agents, they're pledging it to Trump. They're not pledging it to this notion of America. They're pledging it to one person and his sort of ideological vision. And like the Gestapo, ICE operates inside like a civilian society. It's not just at borders and using discretionary powers to stop and detain. It's very arbitrary. They're just literally patrolling the streets and literally cracking down and terrorizing people. Furthermore, both are relying on political protection from the central state, right? Which weakens accountability, because again, what we're seeing is that not only the media class who's backed Trump are basically manufacturing consent for them, but it's very hard to hold these people to account. And ultimately, what's the democratic risk of all of this is that it leads to a normalization of unaccountable federal forces, where the legality might exist on paper, but in practice, it's hard to resist them.
I agree. And even taking it back to what we talked about earlier about seizing the narrative and being quite sort of really, really precious about the narrative, I think what this is going to remind people of, and hopefully does, is we have to be so disciplined and strict with politicians, or it can devolve very quickly. You know, in sort of the rejection of woke culture, what you saw is people saying, we're being overly officious about what someone says or how someone behaves, or we're holding people to too high a standard. And what you're seeing here is if you allow people like the Attorney General Pam Bondi to come out and basically say a blatant lie about the situation with Renee Good, when everyone's seen the video, if that is allowed to be normalized, then you see how quickly this devolves. If you give an inch, they will take a mile. And similarly, when it comes to federal power in terms of ICE, if we allow the public execution of American citizens to be something that is televised throughout the world and nothing's done about it, then it will devolve very quickly.
And I think and part of pushing political imagination is obviously to be hopeful and to be idealistic, but it's also to realize the other way that, you know, this kind of secular, multicultural, liberal like order, I mean, as we're seeing it kind of crumbling before our eyes, is not a stable equilibrium.
There's no guardrails.
Exactly, there's no guardrails. It can go the other way. And I wouldn't be surprised if like in this next upcoming election, I don't know when it is, like 2028 or something like that, I'm not going to be surprised if Trump tries to run another term, or he tries to change the constitution, or he tries to basically, evoke some sort of stand against resisting another election.
If I had to make a prediction, you know when Putin stepped down in early 2000s, and then was basically a backseat driver for a while and then came back, something along those lines.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
I can see that with JD Vance as president. But yeah, insane stuff.
Insane. And moving on then, just to kind of stay on the international front, there's been a huge new deal between the EU, the European Union, and India. So this is following on from the events of last week. So again, if you haven't seen, last week's episode, go watch it, because we break down everything that's happening with the European Union. But now the European Union and India have finalized a landmark free trade agreement after nearly 2 decades of intermittent negotiations, with talks accelerating sharply over the past 6 months because of the actions of President Trump. So European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen described the agreement as the mother of all deals, creating a free trade zone covering around 2 billion people. So the deal will eliminate or reduce tariffs on 96.6% of traded goods by value, with tariffs cut to zero for many industrial products, including iron and steel, plastics, chemicals, machinery, and pharmaceuticals. The EU expects the agreement to double its exports to India by 2032 and save European companies around €4 billion euros in duties, while gaining expanded access to India's traditionally protected market. So this agreement comes amid wider geopolitical pressures, the US tariffs under President Trump, and concerns over China's manufacturing dominance and the ongoing war in Ukraine. And alongside the trade deal, the EU and India are advancing cooperation on security, labor, mobility, and research, with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, out of all people, calling it the biggest free trade deal in history. I see this headline now and I ask myself something. Are they just not learning from the past? is the only way the EU can sort of exert any dominance onto the global scene to basically just do some deals with some dictators that, like, you know, don't even have or share the same values. This is not just another fragile equilibrium that we're entering into.
I don't know, because I think I understand where you're coming from, because in the grand scheme of things, would I want the EU to perform a different role? Yes. Is the EU itself a globalist mission and therefore just needs to be able to function on the global stage with like relative autonomy? Yes. Given its inherent mission, I think what they're doing is better than what they were doing before in terms of just being so in hoc to US, essentially US generosity.
Yeah.
So from the EU's goals and inherent motivations, I think you're being a bit too cynical. But at the same time, I'm as skeptical as you are of these globalist missions, which just seek to foment like GDP productivity at all costs. I also just want to say, like, on a pure economic level, this just makes Brexit look, year on year, Brexit looks like one of the worst decisions
we
the
ever
country.
made.
My gosh. Like the fact because the argument for Brexit was, now we can go around the world, the swashbuckling Brits that we are, and make deals with everyone.
Chat to the US, chat to Australia,
exactly.
chat to this country, that country.
When in fact, like, we have a financial service industry that relies on US automation, on US technology to function, such that if we were to go around and do any deals that the US weren't happy with, one, we'd be trading as a much smaller bloc than if we were part of the EU to get favourable terms. Two, they'd have to be essentially consented to by our parent, by the daddy state of the US anyway.
No, definitely. I think, look, there's an element of like, okay, finally you're growing a spine and actually, you know, stepping up to make some more deals around the world. Because again, if you truly were committed to this globalist mission, if you truly were ideologically consistent, these are the types of things you'd be doing. But also, I think the reason I'm actually more cynical is not even necessarily because it's India, although I hate Narendra Modi. I mean, he's just another kind of devil up there with Netanyahu and Trump. But I'm still not seeing the kind of investment in actual kind of EU sovereignty, like actually building the plants, building the kind of domestic industries, building it out so that actually it can, you know, stop running such a shallow deficit overall, but, you know, be able to actually sustain itself. Obviously, the exports are actually, you know, increasing from this deal, which is a good thing. But I think there's still that kind of, you know, are we just going to, well, I say we, as if we're part of the EU, but is really the tactic just to kind of rely on another big trade partner for the short term rather than actually invest in long term? I think that's the kind of chat I want to see from these leaders. You know what I mean? It's
all just goal dependent, really.
Yeah.
As in, you would need a fundamental change in like the political class.
Yeah.
So it needs to be a bottom-up change in the political class who are constrained by the goals of the people.
Yeah.
If people become more consciously aware that when you see these big free trade deals and it's sort of advertised to you as, it's going to be great for the economy, that doesn't necessarily mean you.
Yeah.
That means that the political class, who are largely in hoc to the financial class, are going to see an increase in their ability to trade and economic activity. Will that benefit the average EU worker? Perhaps in terms of consumption, but perhaps not in terms of labour.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it comes back to that kind of first principle, a first Northstar principle, beware of the GDP chasers.
Yeah, real terms.
Because listen, GDP might be going up, but that says nothing about inequality or who actually has capital flowing to them.
I think also it's worth bearing in mind that there is, like, as in, I'm not against international trade. Let's put it that way. Obviously, I'm critical of globalization, but I'm not against it.
It's a reality of life, right?
What I think is important for nation states to be aware of is what they are trading sovereignty on. So for example, if if we take it back to Daniel Ricciardo, guns and butter, perhaps there is a comparative advantage or an absolute advantage in producing one thing or another for a certain country. But do I think it's wise for a nation's goals of protecting its territory and its citizens to trade away its ability to produce weaponry or defense capacity? No. So I think when you see these deals go up, you have to be very mindful of the fact there is currently a land war in Europe.
Yeah.
There is currently a land war in Europe. And India has nuclear weapons to defend itself. Many EU nation states do not. Therefore, when we're getting involved in these trade deals, it's important for us in the West, or people who are part of states that are promoting these as great things, to think, but how much are we trading our sovereignty here?
Yeah, and I think the absurdity of it all is like this took so. I mean, that's a very good point, but I just think the general absurdity of it all as well is that this took so long to actually do or get and get moving, and that's only because a year ago or so, India kind of pied off the US by taking Russian oil, so that's why the US kind of bumped tariffs on them, and then only now. The EU again have some sort of spine to decouple from the US because they have to. But when again, how many millions of people in Gaza are getting genocided? The EU is so happy to kind of stay aligned with the US. So I just think even that the kind of notion of like think about why they're decoupling now times.
And even more parallel, it's like when Russia invades Ukraine, Roman Abramovich has to sell Chelsea and we have to stop using Russian oil. When the US kidnaps Nicolas Maduro from his home in Venezuela.
No.
Of course, nothing to like.
Yeah, mental. But that takes it there for the international focus. Noah, can you take us down the UK focus?
Bro, speaking of stuff started to echo like Gestapo and sort of weird politics or party politics stuff.
Well, you're going to power off Morgan McSweeney again, yeah?
Bro, but I'm just Keir Stasi. Keir Stasi.
Nah, don't call him Stasi because it sounds like he's one of us.
Yeah, fair enough. But he's using these high level let's not even say authoritarian, but sort of oligopolist tactics to try and block some real democracy. So let's talk about it. So Andy Burnham is the Labour mayor of Greater Manchester. And recently there was a by-election triggered in Gorton and Denton. And, you know, Andy Burnham, for a while, and we spoke about it on the podcast, has been angling for perhaps becoming part of the Parliamentary Labour Party and then looking for a leadership bid. On polling, he is the most popular Labour politician in the country. He used to be in Parliament, left Parliament, Labour mayor of Manchester, developed his new ideology of Manchesterism, had a good feature in the New Statesman in autumn. Interesting guy.
Yeah, and I guess just to give him a bit more context to the views at home, he used to be a very kind of status quo politician back in the day, right? I think he's ran like 3 times for a leadership bid, been unsuccessful in all of them, but it was actually like this sort of humbling, I suppose, of becoming Greater Manchester mayor or Manchester mayor that has allowed him to kind of develop some sort of new political aura that makes him feel a lot more fit for modern politics. But carry on.
No, precisely. So cool. There's going to be this Gorton and Denton by-election on the 26th of February.
Yeah.
And so many people said, okay, this is looking like Andy Burnham could run for that. It's sort of local to his current constituency or current mayoralty. And that would then allow him a route into Parliament and then probably would destabilise the Keir Starmer premiership, most likely.
It's an easy win, right?
Yeah, if not within a year, then definitely before the next election. Okay, cool. So the process by which a candidate can be selected for to be a Labour candidate involves the NEC, which is the National Executive Committee. And for those of you who are familiar with sort of the Labour Party purging out the left wing, what you would know is that Morgan McSweeney, who's Chief of Staff for Keir Starmer, essentially orchestrated a co-option of the NEC by his faction of the Labour Party, such that really they have a veto on any decisions the Labour Party makes. This is important because when this party is the incumbent party in British politics and runs the government, it essentially means that Morgan McSweeney and the top brass of the Labour Party have the ability to veto the democratic process. Okay, so what's then happened is Andy Burnham committed to being the Labour candidate for Gorton and Denton and wanted to be selected by the local members of this Labour Party constituency, which would make sense. The NEC then blocked the mayor, Andy Burnham, from standing as a Labour candidate. The MPs of the Labour Party, the Parliamentary Labour Party, around 50 of them had written to Keir Starmer to object to this controversial decision. They say they're very worried about the impact of the decision and write that preventing Burnham from running hands an advantage to Reform UK, warning it could be, quote, a real gift to Nigel Farage's party. The official reason given by the NEC for blocking Burnham was that allowing him to fight the by-election would trigger a fresh and costly mayoral election in Greater Manchester, something the party would want to avoid. I'm just call it how it is. That is nonsense.
Yeah, it is nonsense.
Greater Manchester was won as a landslide for Labour. They would win again they wouldn't have to spend any money and they'll win it again as a mayoralty. Further to that, is it for the NEC to make this decision or is it for the local Labour constituent members to decide who they want running as their local candidate? Now with Andy Burnham not running, they actually just declared who running for Reform. Did you see that? Matt Goodwin, the GB News presenter.
What a schmuck.
So this is now becoming sort of what we call it, a set piece occasion in the run-up to the May council elections where we're going to see the confidence in Starmer's government. Because if by any means Labour fail to win this seat...
Which is bad because Greater Manchester of all places.
It would be insane. I think the cards could topple pretty quickly. But I think the 2 things to bring out here are 1, the fragility of the Starmer project, and 2, sort of the political strategy around it.
Yeah. I think, well, the fragility of the Starmer project is being sort of bare to see for everyone with just, eyes. Because over time, what we've seen is, he is struggling and he is quite sort of self-aware that he is gone the next election, right? This is the last time Keir Starmer is going to be Prime Minister. I mean, obviously, he might still win his local MP seat. I don't know if he'll continue, to be honest. He's probably going to call it a day after that. It's the thing it actually takes me back to, and it's not, and I don't want to sound like some sort of Oxford chum, okay? But it's just this like kind of Oxford Union-esque politics. So just to give some context for the viewers at home, the Oxford Union is where a lot of these types of politician types are made, right? And they inherit a lot of...
Or even just more broadly, university politics.
Yeah, university politics, right? And actually, like this kind of... When people ask us, oh no, Sean, do you guys want to go into politics? It's literally for this reason. Like, I would not even touch it with a stick. And that's because for the greater good, right, Labour should put up their best strategy to win this by-election seat, because the by-election as well is not just even just a normal seat. It's a signal of confidence. It's a signal of, competence. People use that as a sample size to predict what's actually going to happen in the kind of wider election. So the natural thing to do is obviously to put up a good candidate to win it, because a seat in Parliament is very important. But Labour rather cling on to some sort of status quo of Starmerism, rather than just give any sort of leg or inch to Andy Burnham, who will be actually like a good politician for people in the local area.
Yeah, can I try and put it even more crudely?
Go on then.
The
He shook.
The worry for Keir Starmer
Yeah.
is that the people of Britain would rather Andy Burnham be Prime Minister. But if you think about that, the worry for Keir Starmer is that he might fulfil the people's wishes.
But that's what I mean around like the fact that this is just kind of like student politics, because there's no concept, or there's no allegiance to the greater good. Rather, this is, again, and how you model these politicians should be from a rationalist perspective, right? They're all self-interested players. So actually, a lot of people are saying that even that our favourite weasel, Wes Streeting, is just gassed this happened, because if Andy Burnham gets in the sort of gets into Parliament, then that's even going to diminish their chances of actually becoming the next Prime Minister, next party leader, like the likes of Shabana Mahmood, Wes Streeting, even Angela Rayner.
And at the same time this is happening, the Labour Party is also under different guises trying to delay some of the mayor elections. I don't know if you've seen that.
Yeah, talk to me about it.
So obviously we have the mayor elections coming up, load of different council elections, and Labour, because they're concerned that they're going to lose some of these to Reform or to the Greens or even to the Lib Dems, are trying to delay them under multiple different guises of cost efficiency or administrative stuff, essentially just barefaced gerrymandering.
Yeah.
But I want to offer some predictions.
Go on then.
So I reckon cool. February 26th, I think Labour win the Gorton and Denton by-election.
Okay.
Yeah. Come the May elections, I think we do see a swing towards Reform. I think then there is
definitely.
I think then there is a no confidence vote for Keir Starmer. 80 MPs will launch a no confidence bid against Keir Starmer. I think where Streeting starts off as the pole position to take over, I think Angela Rayner wins the leadership contest.
Oh, so you think she's going to take it over West Street?
So you save that one, yeah, and just like come summertime, we'll see if no got that one right.
Interesting. I'm not trying to be like Rory Stewart and get everything wrong, but I think they're quite sensible predictions. But actually, let us know below. What do you think is going to happen?
But also, sorry, bro. Speaking of like the student politics of this all, you know the reason why Keir Starmer and Andy Burnham got beef? Because he used to be basically part of the same faction in the Labour Party, like Corbyn Light.
Oh, okay.
When Keir Starmer was running for Labour Party leadership, by the way, when he was saying he's going to get rid of student fees and all these sorts of things, when he was an actual left-wing politician, he drove up to Manchester to try and get the endorsement of Andy Burnham. And Andy Burnham said, like, in kind of a weird Game of Thrones way, like, it wouldn't be right for a mayor from the north to support a leadership bid from the south. And ever since then, there's just been a great rapture. So it really is like half student politics, half Game of Thrones.
Well, there you go. It's all ego, self-interest. Like, we actually just, like, God forbid we have a politician who actually cares about people.
Who just sticks to some ideology.
Yeah, just on good principles.
Also, you know who might actually, I don't think he is going for the Gorton and Denton one, but the Workers' Party. George Galloway was on manoeuvres.
This guy, man.
He's just a permanent fixture in British politics.
Bro, so me and Noah have a bit of history with George Galloway, and that's because, not him specifically.
With the Workers' Party.
With the Workers' Party, and that's because before, this is old school Northstar law. Yeah, so maybe a mini background of it, but before we even started this, when the genocide in Gaza kicked off, we started Northstar to help just pro-Palestine independent candidates, because we thought it was important to hold mainstream status quo politicians to account, particularly the Labour Party, because we were so betrayed over their decisions over Gaza. And so we actually ended up brushing shoulders with so many Workers' Party people, George Galloway himself, and
strange guy.
Very, very strange guy, yeah. And for viewers at home, George Galloway, I don't know how many elections has he ran in? And
he used to be my MP.
Yeah, he used to be your MP. He used to be such a dominant voice, actually, anti-war voice. And I mean, he's very talented, he's very eloquent, but he just fell off. And the reason that he fell off is because, well, allegedly, he just kind of sold out to the anti-West interest. So this is another thing, yeah. On the left, there's actual figures who, yeah, they might be preaching this kind of principled thing, but ultimately they're getting paid by all these anti-Western forces, whether it's Iran, Russia, etc. And allegedly, George Galloway is one of them. But what do we know?
Allegations. Allegations.
Yeah, for sure.
I got news.
Do you?
There is a new political party taking the UK by storm. We call this Conform UK.
Ah.
They used to be Reform UK, but now they are literally co-opting the Conservative Party of Rishi Sunak's cabinet.
Bro.
And the latest defection we've seen from the Conservatives to Reform is Suella Braverman herself.
Bro, she looks like a Wallace and Gromit character. Like, honestly.
Allegations again.
That's not allegation. That's just truth.
So yeah, former Home Secretary Suella Braverman, who left the Conservatives after 30 years, is now sitting as a Reform UK MP. She announced her decision at a Reform event, saying she felt like she had, quote, come home. Ironically, a lot of the Reform supporters would deem her home somewhere in the Indian subcontinent. And she criticised the Conservatives over issues such as immigration, public services and Brexit policy. Braverman's move follows other recent Tory defections, bringing Reform's total number of MPs up to 8. Other Conservatives that have switched include Robert Jenrick, who's the guy who's watching everyone's Oyster card usage, Andrew Rosendale,
Shook of the Turkish barbers as well.
Lee Anderson, and Nadeem Zahawi, who is the Sontaran. Many of whom have been sitting MPs or former ministers. The controversy hasn't just been about numbers. What we're seeing here from a lot of actually Reform supporter base is like, what really is the radical nature of Reform anymore if we're just co-opting the Conservative Party that failed in the last election?
Well, like you said, Reform has become conform because the people they are critiquing, right, and they're allowing to join are the very architects of the reason we're in this mess, of the reason why supposedly Reform need to reform anything in the first place. It's bizarre.
Reform UK supporters, welcome to the mono party. It's good to have you on board. I think also it's one of them ones where, you know, there's always a tweet. And it was Zia Youssef, who was basically second in command to Nigel Farage for a while in the Reform Party.
Yeah, he's still up there.
Yeah.
Still around.
But last summer, he essentially tweeted that after the information leak about the Afghans that were allowed to come to the UK, he was like, Suella Braverman and all the other Conservative ministers involved should be put in prison.
Bro,
maybe Reform UK is prison.
I got a question for Zia Youssef. If he ever comes and sits down on Stargazing with the Northstar boys, how many rakas and wudu? Tell me that.
Speaking of our Muslim Reform members, our Akhis and Okhtis from Reform, Layla Cunningham.
Bro, I don't know where they're spawning these characters from.
Are you next?
Listen, I got some big commitments to pay for this year. If you know, you know behind the scenes. But if the price is right, who knows?
No, the Muslim Reform movement's strong. But chat to people about Layla Cunningham.
Well, Islam is definitely taking over and Sharia law is coming because Reform have recently announced that they have a new London mayoral candidate and it's Miss Layla Cunningham. So Miss Layla Cunningham is a ex, I believe, solicitor or barrister, lawyer, something like that. And you might have just seen her taking the media by storm because she's debated the likes of Zach Polanski, etc. And she is just another ethnic face to basically toe the line and justify and give credibility to anti-immigrant sentiment. In particular, she claims at least that she is from a Muslim background because she's of Egyptian heritage. And one of her big policies, which half of it we might actually agree with the Northstar boys, funnily enough, is to ban face coverings, particularly in London.
I'm so with it.
I'm so with that part, but obviously that extends to niqabs.
I don't know how to overcome that kind of.
I mean, because apparently niqabis are just stealing, based off, of course, no evidence from shops, etc. And you know, me and Noah, look, we're young, ethnic, brown-faced, I suppose, somewhat eloquent young people who are trying to make their way in this political scene, cool, right? We've said this before. The monetary incentive to just flip and go over to the other side, to be this kind of right-wing grifter, which I believe a lot of these people are, is insane. Yeah. Like the fact that you have so many of these different black and brown bodies who are just perpetuating a lot of these very harmful narratives. Honestly, how do we even sort of escape this phenomenon?
You know what it is? Yeah, I was actually trying to look up something on my laptop because I'm going to try and explain the mechanism by which this works. It was actually something you wouldn't even know. I wrote this a couple of years ago. It's not anywhere. Okay. It was something I wrote for myself to try and work this out because I was looking at all what I call these subpar sellouts.
Yeah, okay.
Like Layla Cunningham, like the Kemi Badenocks of the world, and trying to work out the mechanism by which they work. Because they're not saying anything more impressive than your average Reform UK member, but somehow they are supercharged into the stratosphere or the top brass. And why do their words carry more weight? And it couples a few things within like I said, the Western canon. One of them is the ability to discern your own interests. So a lot of free market capitalism is based around the individual's ability to discern what is in their own interest and that to be legitimate. Cool. So when what they take that to then mean is when Layla Cunningham says something, or when I say something, when Sean says something, and we derive our own interest or we discern our own interest, that we are correct in doing that. No one can say anything better than that. That's very deep within like Lockean Western tradition.
Yeah.
Okay. But this then gets coupled with another famous Western pastime of stereotyping and racism, which is that the Oriental or the other is a monolithic block, such that they have no sort of individualism or diversity within them. And what this then means then is that Layla Cunningham or Kemi Badenoch, whatever, are able to use that sort of amalgamation to supercharge their words for a right-wing audience. Exactly.
The Western lens.
Because at the same time, they are saying, okay, well, Kemi Badenoch is a black woman, therefore she can speak for the interests of herself. They are then also coupling that with the generalizing of racism to say Kemi Badenoch also speaks for black women. Therefore, it undercuts a lot of any claims of what she's saying is racism, because that classing of how could she be racist, she's black.
Yeah.
These sorts of things.
And you know what's so funny about that is because is that not just by definition the logic of supposedly wokeism and DEI?
Yeah.
So actually, the main perpetrators of DEI might be the very people who critique it, because they actually gain so much utility from having these faces articulate their views.
Precisely. What even further than that is like someone like Kemi Badenoch. A lot of these people, they consider themselves, I'm in this position not because I am black. But I think when we think about that mechanism by which their words become supercharged and put on the forefront, it's like, even more than anything else, you're in that position because you are black.
Yeah,
it's similar to like Layla Cunningham, even like Zia Yusuf. It's like, if you weren't Muslim, you would just be sort of a gammon-faced white man just saying the same normal things.
Yeah.
But because you are, you're allowed to essentially get away with saying something that isn't particularly impressive. It's just, a lot of times, just flagrant.
Mediocre.
Exactly.
Very mediocre.
Yeah. So you're going to vote for Layla Cunningham?
You know what it is, though? I'd actually love, and I don't know how people feel about this, but me and Noah, I feel like we can give them a good grilling. I'd like to see them come.
Do you want to see these kind of people on the pod?
Yeah, because I think that's where I kind of want to take Northstar, because we need to kind of cut across to the other side, and also it will be good to actually try and expose them a bit.
But also, we're not here for the argument, though. Like, I don't want to bring someone on to just be arguing with them.
Yeah, of course.
Like, if Layla Cunningham comes on, it's actually love.
No, it's a discussion. It's a discussion. Well, not love.
That is love. That is love. You've got to lead with love, though.
It's love on the sense that, like, auntie, come sit down. Chat to your
What's
nephews.
What's going on? Before we wrap up, because I don't think we need to do a full back road. I just want to give people a few brief headlines. Yeah, brief little back roads thing here.
Go on.
So just literally today, Rachel Reeves has announced a 300 million support package for pubs and music venues. So from April, every pub or music venue in England will get 15% off new business rates bills. Bills will then be frozen in real terms for 3 years.
Okay, I'll give a thumbs up to that.
I think that's pretty good.
Thumbs up to that.
Also, there's been a £250 limit set on ground rents. So this is kind of the weird one, which Zach actually brought up when we interviewed him, which is Labour in their manifesto said that they were going to reform the leasehold system. So for people that don't know, in the UK, it is actually so crazy how it works. Like everyone else around the world, well, not anyone else, but like if we think about like the West, they might think of you buy a house, you just own the house. In the UK, we have this weird system of leaseholding, which literally dates back to like feudal times, whereby you might own the house, but you don't own the ground on which it is built. Therefore, you pay a ground rent to the freeholder. And this ends up meaning that you are paying like sometimes extortionate amount of rents. The average is around £300 for a house which you claim to own. It also limitations about what you can do with the house. Keir Starmer said that they would outlaw it or get rid of leaseholding. He then obviously U-turned on that and then sat down with developers and whatnot recently to try and work out a system. Obviously not sitting with the right people or the right interest groups, which are people, first-time buyers that want to own a home, and now come up with a system where they're going to cap ground rents at £250. So basically kind of actually just solidifying the phenomenon of ground rents rather than doing anything to get rid of it. So on the one hand, the pub stuff, seems decent. The ground rent stuff, I'm very cynical about.
Thanks, Keir.
Yeah, but we'll try and keep you updated week to week on what these guys get up to. Because every now and then there is kind of a good thing. Even today I saw there was going to be limitations on porn access for people in the UK.
Oh,
yeah.
Sharia law's coming. Because we need to get rid of that, that's for sure.
Should we get into Let Me Land?
Let's do it.
Everything is degrading. Families are degrading. Communities are degrading. Streets are degrading. Houses are even degrading. And the economy is degrading. And what we need to solve that, bring back national service. I know you're probably thinking that we're all going to sign up and join the front lines in the armies and it's back to trench warfare. No. I'm talking about getting together with the lads, with the girls, with your people, them, and fixing some roads, fixing some houses, supporting the community, lollipop men, all of that kind of good stuff. That will save Britain.
Nice. Okay, cool. So we've talked about this off camera before. I actually kind of agree with it, but for the nature of the Let Me Land, I'm going to have to push back. Okay, cool. So just extend that out a bit then, right? So what exactly are the categories you would say would be sufficient for national service And then why would you not extend that to perhaps the army or something like that?
So as in, it can be extended to the army. That's cool. But I think people oftentimes have too limited a view of what national service looks like and think that it's like kind of a Hitler Youth sort of militarism, which I'm just not in favour of. I think national service literally is what it says on the tin, uniting a certain age group for a year in service of the nation. So what that could look like is people, on the one hand, the young people developing their skills, but on the other hand, doing it in a way that gives back. So I'm thinking of, from the very rudimentary, having 18 to 19-year-olds working as support workers in primary schools, all the way up to people developing their skills within the tech industry, whatever it might be that takes their fancy. And it could be done in a way as like an add-on to whatever further education they're doing already or whatever advanced education they're going to go on to do. Mm-hmm. So let's say, for example, me and you famously did PPE at Oxford, yeah? The degree that's ruining the world.
It's just a meme right now.
Exactly. Maybe we could have actually helped the world the year beforehand by perhaps like working as like parliamentary aides or working on a care home. But I'm saying if it was like added on to the degree you're going to go on to do, maybe it could be us working in the local council and helping admin work for local council members or helping at MPs' surgeries or these sorts of things.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't even have to be linked to what you're currently doing at school or going to go on to do at university.
But is there not like, I guess, there's a few kind of concerns that we can go down. The first route I want to go down is inequality, right? So is that actually not going to be quite unfair to perhaps poorer students, because actually time is money? Who has a lot of time to kind of just give their time?
They should be paid.
Oh, they should be paid?
Definitely paid.
Okay, but I mean, all right, we're assuming it's going to be paid then.
Yeah, we're assuming it's going to be paid, but we're also assuming they're going to provide utility. Like, this is pure Keynesianism in the sense that we're going to put people in place to, one, upskill themselves to benefit our country long term, but also within that year, do productive labour and do productive work that's going to help the economy.
And what about our principles or shared principles of freedom, right? Yeah. Because actually, the kind of part that we're kind of glossing over around national service is that you have to do this thing, right? Wouldn't it be lend itself to a lot more credibility to the idea itself if these options were something that people could opt for instead? That instead of actually saying you have to do this thing, perhaps we should push a cultural change where it's a choice, that you still retain the choice to do this thing, but actually these are kind of like well-funded paths that people could do instead of a university or something. So for example, like, how apprenticeships used to, people used to look down at it. Why can't we just create or put money and investment in some sort of pathway like this where people can choose to do this thing as opposed to just saying you have to be forced? Because I think that's the key. I don't think anyone's going to say, okay, yeah, go into care home, work out, fine. But yeah, exactly. So why does it have to be forced?
Has to be.
Go then. Why?
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I just kind of like the sound of that, isn't it? The reason it has to be forced is, for one, because it builds out in people's minds what the social contract is.
Yeah.
If it's something that people can already opt into doing loads of cool government-funded things, not loads, famously not loads, but there are government-funded things. And I think it's important to bring that whole cohort of a certain age group together, no matter the social class. What you'd find, if it was as you describe, a lot of the wealthier kids would not do it. A lot of the people that already have loads of opportunities in life to do things, whether they're funded or not, would not do it.
I mean, they might, but yeah, Karen, I'll grant you that assumption.
I'm saying they wouldn't. They actually just wouldn't, because, for them, time is actually more money than for the poorer kids.
Yeah.
In that sense. So I think it's important, one, to build out what it means to be a citizen of the UK, because currently, the freedom argument, I don't even buy that, because people have to go to school up to the age of, or be in education up to the age of 17. So we're not even concerned with the freedom argument. But what I think is important here is understanding that what is also demanded of you by your nation or by your country is to be in service of it, is to support your community, rather than just upskill yourself in school and then go on and do what you want and then run away to Dubai for tax purposes when you want to.
Okay,
we've educated you here for the first 18 years.
So I think the intention, around uplifting and valuing the social contract is a noble one, that's for sure. But we're living in a time where actually social contracts are being ripped up in front of our eyes. And actually, the social contract itself, sure, we can talk about this kind of fancy, fun, liberal theory, but the reality is, in real politic, right, it's a top-down sort of governing structure where actually this seems like it's all, you're presupposing that this government has good intentions. But what we're seeing with Trump, for example, there's no reason that can't happen in the UK now. Nigel Farage is on the rise. Surely a national sort of service under the likes of Farage is going to look very different to a national service under the likes of maybe Jeremy Corbyn, right? So is it not leader contingent? And if it is leader contingent, how do you actually safeguard people's rights? Surely, maybe I'm making a bit of a slippery slope argument here, hopefully not in a fallacious way, but should we not be scared by just, relinquishing this autonomy to the state?
No, because one what I say is that argument also holds for just education in general. So you can make the same argument against education then.
No,
it's
what
would the education system look like if Nigel Farage is in charge?
No, but Okay, but then there's a difference
But
between.
I'll take your point.
I don't think it's a good
I'm
analogy,
going to
but
strongman
yeah.
your argument, and then what I'll say in response is this: is that I think it would actually do the opposite, because if we have more people invested in the national project consciously, it will put more cognitive safe guardrails around who we allow into power. We spoke about it at the top of the episode. A lot of the problems allowing great injustice to be perpetuated is apathy around the political realm, apathy around national projects. If people feel more of a sense of investment within the political project, then those conscious guardrails will be set up, and people have a more of an understanding about what it actually is to be British, what Britain's all about, and be more invested in that project.
Okay. So let's even just take it even simpler, yeah, because I actually think that it's still a good, it's still a valid critique that needs to be drawn out a bit. Farage comes in and he says, actually, no, national conscription is no, you have to go to war. You have to, right? Because it's part of national conscription, and we don't have the kind of rights to actually kind of protest that. That is something that's very different. That is going to be like a genuine worry compared to someone like Corbyn.
But we have the same rights to oppose that now as we would if there was already national service.
So what you say like that? But I'm saying we're going to be in a weaker position to actually, you know. So sure, okay, cool. People can go protest, fine. But what I'm saying is that we're establishing a norm.
You've established the premise of national service.
Yeah, but the enforcement mechanism of national service is literally saying, okay, it's a legitimate thing to do, right? To basically, again, send your like ICE agent goons, right? To enforce national service if people don't do it. So I'm just saying, is this not, because we talk about normalizing all the time. Is this not normalizing another?
I get what you're saying, but also I think that you're kind of wedded to the pre-existing notion of what national service is. Right, I'm seeing vibes.
But then, why does that pre-existing notion exist? Why is it not the case that will necessarily be replicated here?
Because what I'm saying is, for national service, like again, we're running away from as Northstar, we're trying to run away from subservience to GDP chasing.
Yeah.
In the same way that when I'm talking about national service, I'm not talking about things that just increase the military capacity of the UK. I think that should be like the smallest proportion of it. I'm talking about national service in terms of, like you said, working in care homes, working on the trains, working on developing whatever your skills might be. Perhaps we get people that are, national service interns working to help clip stuff up for Northstar Politics. These sorts of things. Those sorts of really important jobs, which we need people to be doing.
So but just my final kind of pushback, just because I really want you to answer this head on. Then is my thing. I'm saying is that okay, cool. It doesn't have to be that way in theory. I completely agree. I want people to work in care homes, right? But why is it not the case, or why is it the case, that there's a natural tendency in national services across the world where it actually just develops into this forcing of people into the army, right? Because anyone could have made this argument in any theoretical level, in any context, that no, it should be about bettering the community, bettering people, etc. But still, in reality, there's a tendency for it to kind of collapse into this.
I think the reason is because historically the political class have seen the war machines or the war effort as the only sufficient reason to round people up to get involved.
It's not historically, though. It's now as well, right? I got boys getting called up from Turkey being come back.
No, I'm just, bro. One of my mates, his uncle went on holiday back to Eritrea. Yeah, he dodged the draft back in the 90s. I grabbed him up. They ain't heard from him since. I'm not even joking.
But this is what I'm saying. Like, why is that the case? Why is this happening?
Free bro. But I think it's because, historically people have seen, and that's why maybe we wouldn't even use the word national service.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll call it, I don't know, we'll call it something else. The Northstar Nation. I don't know what we call it.
We're seeing Noah just like soft launch dictatorship now. Dictatorial thinking.
But I think the reason we need to detach ourselves from that thinking is because historically, like I said, the only reason that political elites have seen to whip up a particular age group into national service is for a war effort. And if we're of the ideology that there are other things that are worthy, for example, the upskilling of our youth is a worthy enough cause to have a national service or to have a national commitment to that project, then I think it becomes more detached from a military militarization.
Well, again, sounds good in theory. Let's see what happens in practice.
But if you're ready to sign up for the Northstar National Service, you get in the comments. We've got jobs for the boys.
No, but let us know what you think, because I'm pushing back on it, but they're probably quite sympathetic to the idea of having some sort of force thing. Maybe it's our old school traditional Caribbean mentality where get off your ass and go help the elders in your community. Because I'm very sympathetic to that. But let us know what you think in the comments below.
Let us know.
We're wrapping this episode up. How was that, Noah?
Episode 16, man. Honestly, I don't know why my vibe is so good this week. I'm just so appreciative for the stars, them.
Nah, man, for sure.
Can't even tell them what happened last week.
Go on. I don't even know
what happened last week, yeah.
Go on.
Big up Shireen.
Oh, yeah. Damn,
Oh
that's
man!
mad.
So there was you guys might have seen a comment on the last episode where someone commented, "Our highest ROI I ever got from a donation." And so I'm in bed, at like 11 p.m. and I see like a random phone number come in, and I can't lie, like I get so many fraud calls. It literally ruins my day every day. But I was thinking, right, 11 p.m. There's like they're on job.
Yeah.
Let me just pick up and just see what they're saying.
Obviously, Gallister Campbell picking up.
Impossible.
Numbers
That's literally just a joke. But I pick up, and I'm like, obviously it's not my podcast voice. I'm just silent, and then the other goes, "Hello," and I'm like, "Who's this?" He goes, "Is this Noah?" I'm saying, "Brother, who's this?" He goes, "Oh no, sorry, like." I just supported on Northstar Politics, and there was a number on my invoice, and I thought, let me check. I was thinking, oh, that's crazy. So don't worry though, we took the number off the invoice. You actually can't find that anymore.
Oh, they can't.
Yeah, but
No,
you can support, and you will get my number in it.
But
then I added Sean to the call. We had a good chat with one of the stars.
No, it's good, man. So shout out to you, Sharon, because I've actually seen you supporting for time.
Bro,
so
for real. Well, we got emotional in it afterwards. Me and Sean had a quick chat. Yeah, it's like honestly seeing the support from the stars, them incredible, best team in the world.
And that was pre-birthday, so I was in my little moody phase, thinking like, wow, no one wants to be a villager. Then a villager's belling up the line and just chatting to us. So yeah, man.
No, but honestly, we can't appreciate you guys enough. Anything you guys can think to support, obviously, it'd be great if you can head to northstarpolitics.com/support.
Yes,
but if you can't do that, just make sure you're liking, make sure you're commenting.
Yeah, literally, man.
Make sure you head to the Spotify, review that.
Just hashtag engage, man. We need the engagement.
Literally, we've got, as we always say, big things coming this year.
Inshallah.
Already done big things.
Inshallah.
Is that Polanski interview? How you feeling now off the back of that properly?
No, it was good. And I think like we set the tone for like a good discussion, but good pushback as well.
Yeah.
So hopefully we continue to do that.
And the response has been great. People were saying it's my first time seeing it. Really good questions. We kind of felt like it was an agree fest in the moment.
Yeah, in the moment.
Looking back on it now, I'm watching. I'm like, oh no, it was actually proper discourse in the sense of we're not having to be like conflictual, but we are.
And I asked last time, just put in the comments below who you guys want us to see.
Layla Cunningham.
Yeah. And if you've got connections, just tell them come on to Northstar.
We've got to have that nightmare blunt rotation. Layla Cunningham, George Galloway,
Zia
Yusuf.
Oh,
come on now. But no, as always, thank you guys. We appreciate you so much, and we will see you next week.
See you next week, guys. Take it easy.